Sunday, April 6th, 2025. Unbelievably, but yes, it is. I hope you all have a wonderful, powerful Sunday. Hello from northern Israel, where at the moment in this vicinity it is quiet, relatively, thank goodness. And what is happening on the markets? Well, at the moment, um, the Trump tariffs are, of course, the talk of the town, so to speak. People are still going off, trying to ascribe motivations to why the Trump tariffs are happening. So I'm saying it's like a mafioso play, basically saying, hey, you tariff us, we tariff you. You want your tariffs removed, remove your tariffs. You got to remember the reason that the tariffs other countries charge the U.S. in the first place is because of economic imbalance, which is developed or which exists because of the post-World War II global agreement to make the U.S. dollar the world reserve currency, in which many countries, pretty much most countries, agreed to give up literally their gold to the U.S. because they trusted that the U.S. would be an honorable store for the gold, which is why there's so much of the world's gold underneath the ground in New York, in case you're not aware. And no, it's not all in Fort Knox. That's just a cartoonishly caricaturish view of the world. Like, it's a joke. When people say, oh, we're going to go to Fort Knox to check if the gold is there. Okay. There hasn't been the majority of the supply of gold at Fort Knox in many decades. Yes, they have some gold, but they don't have the gold, like the big pile. Most of that is in New York. Second of all, these tariffs, again, whether you like them or not, I'm not here to judge Trump or his fans or his detractors. Okay, I'm not. I'm just observing hard, cold facts. Whether you like them or not, and I said this before Trump was president when he was talking about tariffs. And he was talking about, maybe we'll put 1,000% tariff on something. And everyone thought he's nuts. He completely lost his mind. And I said, 1,000% tariff is nuts, except it's a very powerful tool as a negotiating tool to get the other side to say, okay, obviously at 1,000%, nobody's going to buy this product. What do you really want? Let's make a deal. So 1,000% tariff threat is definitely a negotiating tactic, okay? But he's not going to put 1,000% tariff on everything, because there are things people in America who still want to buy that are made overseas. Like what? Oh, I don't know, like coffee. Right? The average American drinks more coffee than water on a given day. Not even joking. The average American drinks more coffee than water on a given day. Now, of course, you can say, well, there's water in coffee. Yes, but the average American drinks more cups of coffee than just cups of straight water on a given day. Now, do you think the American citizen wants to pay suddenly 10 times more for their cup of coffee? Because they would if there was 1,000% tariff on it, right? You're not going to grow coffee in America. Oh, bring back manufacturing. Yeah, you can bring back manufacturing all you want. By the way, it doesn't matter how much you bring back manufacturing. Coffee doesn't grow in America, okay? It needs certain environmental realities that don't exist in America, right? Tropical climates, etc. That we don't have nearly enough of. Like, oh, maybe we'll grow it in South Florida. Okay, sure. Right. We're going to grow enough coffee for the entire United States in one little place in South Florida. I mean, be realistic. Second of all, even if you wanted to, quote unquote, bring back manufacturing to the United States, again, I'm not saying this as a fan or a detractor. Right? I'm just pointing out hardcore facts. If you want to, let's say, I don't know, build the next generation of small black rectangles that you call phones or tablets or computers or laptops, you want to build those in America, right? Not just the chips, no. The Taiwan's super microconductor, whatever, TSMC, Taiwan semi-micro, whatever it is, conductors. They're building a plant in the U.S. to make microchips. Great. Do you know how long it's going to take them? It takes a bunch of years to build such a plant. So it's not like it's going to be operating even by the time Trump leaves office, right? So in another 4 years, if Taiwan actually goes through with this investment plan that they've, if that company goes through with this investment plan, which they've signed on to and said that they would, okay, it's going to take them at least 5 to 7 years, quite possibly 10 years to build one plant in America to do this. Okay. You want America to be a manufacturing country? It's going to take you at least, like if the entire country as a national project decided, yeah, let's make manufacturing great again in America. Let's make America a manufacturing powerhouse. I mean, it's going to take you at least a decade or two. And the reason America is not the manufacturing powerhouse of the world, and that China is because the United States upgraded its economy from being the manufacturing powerhouse to being a service economy powerhouse. Why does that matter? Well, people prefer having service economy jobs. Most people would rather have service jobs than factory line jobs. It's just a reality. Why? Well, service jobs are physically easier and they usually pay higher, right? And they usually have better benefits. Now, the downside is a lot of service jobs don't have union protection, but a lot do. Plenty of service jobs have union protection. Manufacturing jobs also, but there's a lot more physical difficulty and usually relatively lower wages. And yeah, wages are what you usually get in manufacturing jobs. Salaries are what you normally get in service jobs. So service jobs are usually more in demand. That's why people go to college, so that they can get a service industry job as opposed to a manufacturing job. Now, that doesn't mean that people who own the factories can't do well. Actually, they can do very well. But there's a lot less innovation if your country decides, well, let's make a bunch of electric toasters, rather than, hey, let's find the new, cure for the next cancer that we need to solve, or find the new technology that we need to make the new amazing computer, or the new amazing rocket ship, or the new amazing car, or the new amazing gadget for your house, or the new amazing whatever it might be. There's a lot less R&D in a manufacturing level economy that needs to be spent than in an innovation-driven service economy that's all about science and the future. What motivation could Trump have for crashing markets? Well, again, you can say the argument of it's the mafioso type thing. You could say it's the negotiation thing, where he's trying to bring people to the table, where he's trying to make the whole world have fair trade, where he's trying to actually eliminate all the tariffs, right? By imposing all these high tariffs on countries that barely can afford to buy any U.S. goods in the first place, and by putting tariffs on countries that just aren't used to having tariffs on American goods that they buy, right? By the way, the reason, and you could also talk about the formula, right? So the reason that people are pointing out the formula, which is clearly ridiculous, and that's fine. Again, he's an over-the-top showman more than he is. He's not a policy guy, right? He didn't think this through. He literally just said, he said, ask ChatGPT to make this, or he asked somebody in his cabinet to say, hey, just get me a thing that we can use to justify on the big printed cardboard thing I'll hold. Right? This is made for television. That's how Trump operates. What's good for the visuals. So he asked ChatGPT, or one of his staff asked ChatGPT, how would you make a tariff policy that's, shocking or whatever, that might be used as a negotiating tactic against the world, right? And literally ChatGPT gave the answer. And if they didn't do it this way, well, it's a heck of a coincidence that a bunch of people asked the very same question of ChatGPT, and he gave all of them very similar answers. Basically, he just took the trade deficit, right, and looked at the amount that those countries exported to the United States and divided it by the deficit that the U.S. has with them, or whatever. And it's just unbelievably simplistic, right? It's not some great mathematical formula. He didn't arrive to the fact that the U.S. is charging either a flat 10% on any country that has less than that charges 10% or less on the U.S. So even if they charge nothing to the U.S. is still charging them 10% for some reason, which is weird because they didn't do that with Russia, right? Russia doesn't actually have a tariff on the U.S., but also the McDonald and Hurd Islands, they don't actually. They're empty, uninhabited islands. They don't charge anything to the U.S. The only people living there are nobody. It's just inhabited by penguins, right? So obviously that 10% tariff we put on the McDonald and Hurd Islands, it's a joke. It's a meme. And if you think that they're incapable of memeing themselves, I'm pretty sure they can, even if they did it by accident. So they took this silly, ridiculous formula, and they're just taking the amount of exports and dividing it by the deficit or whatever it was, and just made this make-believe formula to calculate, basically we should charge them half of what they charge us to make it seem like we're being, generous. America's being benevolent, but we're still going to charge them something. Now, what does that do? It causes a lot of countries to immediately vacate their tariffs against the U.S. Israel already did it, even before the tariffs were announced, like the week before. Israel got rid of its tariffs against the U.S. The U.S. still imposed a tariff against Israel. Why? Mostly to show, right? Mostly for show. And then we will see whether or not the U.S. will remove the tariff against Israel. It probably will. Give it a few weeks, maybe a month, maybe two. Right? He's going to let these countries sweat. Why? And you can say, wait, I thought Israel controlled America. No, Israel doesn't control America. Oh, I thought Israel was friends with America. It doesn't matter if Israel is friends with America. He's going to make an example of it, whether you think it's right or wrong. Okay? And he's going to do that with a lot of countries. Vietnam also was next in line, one of the next in line to call the U.S. and be like, hey, we'll dump our tariffs if you do too. We'd like to remove the tariffs, right? And you'll see. So the response was, okay, thank you. Nice talking to you. And now they're going to let him cook a little for a month, maybe two. And then when they do that, then they will go and remove it eventually once they see that there's an impact, that they actually drop their tariff and that there's no need to maintain it. As soon as they see that there's no need to maintain it, the U.S. will drop it, right? But they're going to do it in a way, he's not just going to be like, okay, once one person calls and drops it, and if I say, okay, I'm going to drop my tariffs against you, then the next person will call and maybe try to drop a little bit less than the whole thing. And then he'd be like, well, okay. No, he's going to hang tough and see how long he can basically get people to completely drop their tariffs. Right? Once he has people completely dropping their tariffs, like all over the place, then he can make the decision to, you know what, we could just end this whole tariff thing if everybody agrees to end it. And then they could even do a global summit where all the leaders of all the heads of state show up. You know, it could be a US-led summit. Trump can be at the head of the world, just like he wants to be, symbolically and literally, and can say to everybody, look, you see, I'm the big granddaddy of removing tariffs, and everybody should thank me and bow down to me and kiss the ring. And that's what he wants, right? I mean, it's obvious. He makes it obvious. Like, it's not a secret. So the motivations, like, all right, are almost irrelevant, really. It doesn't matter what the motivations are. It matters that that's what he wants. It does the thing. Next question, right? And you might find some. Once you set aside the potential motivations of the tariffs and the potential resolutions of the tariffs, which are, you know, beginning to see the first signs from different countries saying, okay, we'll get rid of our tariffs. Now, please get rid of yours. And the U.S. basically saying, oh, thanks for calling, and not telling them that they're going to remove the tariffs, even though they're supposed to be reciprocal. So now all of a sudden they're not. But now they're just one-sided. Well, we'll see. But beyond the motives, right, what is at stake here? Again, the U.S. wants something more than just these tariffs. Wants more than just these tariffs to be an issue. The Trump administration is trying to solve the fair trade issue. And again, I'm not judging whether you're for free trade, fair trade, global trade, not global trade, local trade, whatever. I'm not judging. I'm just pointing out